Meeting of the Mint Hill Planning Board for July 15th, 2024. We do have a quorum. Roger, could I get you to do the invocation, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this time we can be together. We just ask for your discernment, Lord, and for us to use our discernment as well, Lord, on the issues that come before our community. We just lift up our first responders and our military, Lord, here and all over the world, and we just pray for their safety. And we just pray for our nation and its political situation, and we just pray that you give guidance to the future for us and give guidance to as we deal with each issue here today. Thank you for the blessings you give us each day. Help us to make the most of them. We make this prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Roger. Can I get a motion for approval for the minutes of the June 17th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Eric?
Second.
All right, Eric and Roger. Any additions or anything to it? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, okay. Addition, deletions of agenda items. We're going to swap A and B, so we're going to do B first. B will now be A and A will now be B. Is that confusing? Yes. So how do you want to do it, John? Oh, wait a minute, what about reports for the meeting? The commissioners' meeting?
Right. So the last meeting, this was a complete meeting, you heard the text amendment for the BD district, and that did pass the other night.
Okay. Anything else? That's it? Any old business? All right, new business. How you want to do this, John? Steve?
Yeah, I think Steve.
All right.
Justin Williams, staff engineer, and staff is proposing two text amendments related to land development. One is in the post-construction ordinance and the other's in the unified development ordinance. And the first amendment pertains to section 6.8 of the PCO, and this amendment would remove the option for HOAs to petition the town for long-term maintenance of their BMPs, otherwise referred to as stormwater ponds.
The other change is related to section 8.3 of the UDO. This is related to traffic studies for new developments coming into town. So currently the threshold to produce or to require a TIA, a traffic impact assessment, is 2,000 trips a day or 200 trips in a peak hour. That equates to roughly 187 homes. So that's a bit on the high side. I couldn't tell you offhand how many neighborhoods of that size have come in to Mint Hill in the past 5 or 10 years. So we're proposing to lower that to 1,000 trips per day or 100 trips in a peak hour, which is approximately 94 homes. We're also proposing the creation of a traffic technical memo. And this would be, for lack of a better phrase, a mini TIA. Lesser involved, but it would still point out any safety or traffic conflicts more in a confined immediate area. And this threshold would be for 50 trips in a peak hour, which is approximately 47 homes. So smaller neighborhoods would still probably fall under that, obviously less than 47 homes. But that 47 to 94 window, that's a common occurrence in Mint Hill. So we want to try to capture them and get them held to some more traffic improvements. So we'd be happy to answer any questions on both of these.
Start down with Eric. Eric?
I don't actually have any questions on this.
Kenny?
No, sir. No questions here.
Raj?
Just a couple. Steve, first on, on your part on 8.3, have these issues been, or there have been issues with the traffic studies on the communities that we have so far? I mean, have y'all experienced some issues there that after the fact, turns out it wasn't, didn't turn out to be like what we planned, so, because of more houses, the threshold was too high? I mean, has it created some problems?
I would stop short of saying it's created a problem. Has it created some, geez, I wish we could have held that development to a little bit more? Yes.
Okay.
And it's because simply our net holes were too big.
All right.
Threshold wasn't triggered for that development.
Well, I understand that. Okay, on 6.85, On the BMPs, now, has this been a situation to where in the past that we've had taken over? Is there a lot of that application coming to the town as far as to take over the BMPs?
No, actually, there has been 0 HOAs come forward with that petition since the PCO was adopted in 2007. So that's one of the reasons we're looking to move forward with the amendment.
Okay, and this is just house cleaning on our part as far as, getting this, making it tighter here?
Right, yep. And we've been discussing this in-house staff for several months now, and some of our neighboring municipalities are moving that direction as well. So we're just thought it'd be a good time to move forward with it since we're already discussing it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Rhonda?
No question.
Scott?
Just one, who does the TIAs? Is that DOT or?
That's the developer's own engineer, not us. We review it, but they prepare it and submit it to us.
That was it, I was just curious.
All right, anybody else got anything? If not,
I'll ask one more.
sure.
Could you give an example of something that would be triggered by the TTM?
Well, first of all, you'll note we did not root it in a specific land use. It's trips. So first thing that comes to mind for some reason, the nail salon. If it triggers 50 trips in a peak hour, they'll do it. So it's not rooted in just homes. I gave the homes as an example because that's going to be 90% of our development that triggers this. But it could be commercial, industrial, anything that triggers 50 or more, between 50 and 50 and 100 trips in a peak hour. If they go above 100, they fall into the TIA.
Yeah, what I was referring to is what would be a sample improvement.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's an important thing to note. Don't expect the widening of Highway 51 out of this, right, to go full tilt. This would be turn lanes in front of the site typically. Our hands are a little bit tied with off-site, not adjacent improvements per state law. But the vast majority of this is going to be capturing turn lanes.
Would it be adjacent to the property?
Technical documenting that the turn lane is warranted and needed.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? If not, can I get a motion for a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to put forth a motion on ZC 24-4 with a favorable recommendation for the text changes as presented by staff.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Scott, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. All right, motion passes. Thanks, guys. All right, second item for new business, discussion and recommendation of ZC 24-3 filed by Capital Land Partners LLC to conditionally rezone 25.19 acres of property located at 10-524, 10-600, 10-16, and 10-608 Lawyers Road to allow residential development consisting of 50 lots, tax parcels 135, 38167, 38166, 38164, and 38165. John, how would you like to proceed?
I'm going to ask the applicant to give the presentation he made at the public hearing, and then we can get into the questions.
All right? State your name and address, please.
My name is Chris Boone. I live at 2820 Rothwood Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the name of our development is Alexander Landing. It's located off of Lawyers Road. It's just close to the intersection of Lawyers Road and True Light Church Road. I'll just give you a little background on ourselves. Our company's Capital Land Partners. We've been doing land development since 2003, almost exclusively in the greater Charlotte area. We've developed around 2,000 home sites, and our communities range anywhere from first-time move-up buyers up to where we've developed communities with custom builders, luxury homes. And so we have a variety of different developments we've done. In fact, we actually developed the Mint Hill Village directly behind here with Meritage Homes about 3 years ago, 74 lots. And As I said, we are a residential land builder, so we do not develop the homes, but we do all the land development. As far as this particular site, as I said, it's located on Lawyers Road, very close to the intersection of Lawyers Road and True Light Church Road. It's 25.19 acres consisting of 4 separate parcels, 3 of which are rental homes on the site now. They will be demolished as part of this development. Our ask is for 50 single-family home sites, which is a little less than 2 to the acre. And this site is within walking distance to the town, and we'll go through some of the amenities that we have proposed for the site. As far as the site plan itself, it's, as I said, 50 lots and located at Lawyers Road and True Light Church Road. I just want to spend a minute, if I can, to just talk about the design that we have for the site and how we arrived at that. We spent a lot of time trying to focus on the site and the individual lots and trying to make this a community that would have a lot of room for activity and things that would allow it to be a cohesive community. As you come in, there's a little cul-de-sac on the left with 4 or 5 lots around that. Then we have a pocket park with a circular drive with 6 lots along on that pocket park, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The next probably 12 lots are going to be fronting on open space, common open space that will primarily be undisturbed. Most of that will be undisturbed. And so those lots will not have any lots across the street from them. They'll be facing that common open space. So we feel like that would be a attractive lots. Those will be attractive lots. And then finally, the rest of the lots will be down on the cul-de-sac at the end of the site. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about how we would lay this out, and we really believe we've got a great layout there. As far as the amenities, the primary amenity that we're offering is, and this is part of the rezoning, it's a condition to the rezoning, is that we will be installing a extension to the existing greenway. It's roughly 2,000 linear feet of additional greenway that we will be installing as part of this development. And that will run from, and I've got a map that will show this, but that will run from the Apple Creek Drive. There's a lot that the town owns, so we'll run it through that lot to Apple Creek, all the way down Irwin's Creek until we get to the existing greenway right behind Brighton Park. And we will actually have a pedestrian crossing that will cross over the creek and then to tie into the existing greenway on Brighton Park. So that's probably the main amenity that we're offering. That will be a public greenway, and our condition is that that would be installed consistent with Mecklenburg County standards. The pocket park I mentioned, I've got some renderings that will highlight that in a little more detail, but our plan is to have some benches and some open space, and that would be a place for activities within the community. And then finally, our green space, 38.5% of the site is going to be dedicated as common open space, the majority of which will be undisturbed open space. As I mentioned, the greenway is 2,000 linear feet, and that will extend from Apple Creek Drive through the town's property along Irvins Creek, and then crossing Irvins Creek with a pedestrian crossing, and then tying into the existing greenway on the town's property behind Brighton Park. And that's a condition to the rezoning. In addition, we are going to be installing a traffic signal at the intersection of True Light Church Road and Lawyers Road, and a pedestrian signal and crossing as well. Also, and that's a condition to the rezoning as well. And in conjunction with this development, we've been talking to NCDOT. We don't have approved plans yet because they hadn't been submitted, but the requirement will be for a turn lane into our neighborhood. We had a number of questions about the turn lane, how that ties in with True Light Church Road, and we expect this turn lane to primarily be it'll probably be a 1-lane extension with no taper, so it'll just be a single turn lane that will extend from our entrance all the way to True Light Church Road. But again, that's got to be approved and feedback from NCDOT before we can finalize that, but that's the intent. As far as the homes, as I said, it's 50 home sites. This is a rendering looking over the Pocket Park with homes that these are examples of the types of homes that we would expect to build in the neighborhood. Right now, we're working with Eastwood Homes. These are homes that they have built and are in their design. We would offer benches and some nice landscaping and then have some open space for community gatherings in the Pocket Park as well. The homes we're estimating would be from the 600s up to the mid 700s. That's based on what the pricing would be for the lots and what feedback we've gotten from the builders, and then 2,800 to 3,800 square foot in sizes. This is another rendering of the Pocket Park. These just zoomed in a little bit of some of the homes that we would expect to see there. And then this is along Daisy Drive, which is the main road coming in. This is just home sites facing on Daisy Drive and the typical homes that you would see there. As far as timing, assuming the rezoning would be approved in August, we would start development. We'd submit construction drawings, anticipating the approval process. It's going to take roughly 6 to 9 months. Start development in the spring of 2025, and then homes would be expected to start sometime in the summer of 2025. And that's it. I failed to introduce Capital Land. We're a family business. These are my two sons that work with me, Wood and John. I failed to introduce those earlier, but they keep me straight. So if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions on the
All
development.
right, thank you, Don. Chris? Start with Scott?
Yeah, and maybe this is more directed at John. How is it determined, it looks like they're going, two houses per acre how is that calculated and determined? It's not by lot, because some of these lots are well under that.
Sure. So it's gross acreage. So in this case, it's approximately a 25-acre site. So if 2 units to the acre is granted, that 50 homes.
Even if only 38% of that is being used.
And that's actually
Only half
usually the
acre
trade-off.
Yeah.
Is, our conventional subdivisions is larger lots. The trade-off is to have this 2 units to the acre option, and then you have more open space. So less yard space, individual private yard space, but more community space.
Community space.
Yes, so that's sort of the trade-off with
Let me jump in, Scott. Why don't you give us, I talked to you about maybe giving us a history of kind of how we went from conservative neighborhoods to where we are now.
Okay. Well, even before my time here, so this was probably 2001, Mint Hill adopted a what they called at the time a cluster conservation ordinance, which gave an option, Mint Hill, the large lot town, this gave an option for smaller lots, but with more open space. And that was a cluster conservation ordinance, and the one neighborhood I know that was built under that was Versailles. About the time I arrived in 2004, they wanted to make some changes to that ordinance. And about 2005 or so, they adopted what they then changed and called it a conservation ordinance. Difference between that and what they're doing now is back then it was the same theory where you're saving more open space, but you're allowing the reduction in lot size with a neutral, density neutral is what we would call this. And I guess that was like 2005, somewhere in there. But it had a minimum lot size. So it was 12,500 square foot was the minimum lot size. So under that, we've had several developments that were built, and I'm sure I'm sure a lot of you remember those. Ardley, Telfair off of Lebanon, Old Stonegate, Belglade, I think that was another one. So that's your conservation. In 2015, and all the while this is building up pressure from builders to have a less than 12,500 square foot, because I think the market direction was people wanted less yard. They wanted less maintenance and more community space. So at that time, I think it was about 2015, 17, somewhere in there, the first subdivision that was approved under this 2 units to the acre category was Sonata. And that was approved. And then subsequently, there were about 4 other developments approved. And about that time, we were going to do the land use plan. So the board and mayor said, pump the brakes, because what was happening is 100% of the conversations we were having with builders was they wanted to do this option. And the board did not want the large lots to go away. They wanted that to still be the primary form of development in Mint Hill. So we went through the land use plan, and after that, the conclusion of that is that the board members would be a bit more selective on where these could be. So it was not just going to be an allowance just to anywhere you can have this. It was going to be very selective. And since then, we have had a couple developments approved. That is just what he's asking. Same thing, Epcon off Ottawa, and the one recently off Quail Park. Those are ones that were done under this 2 units to the acre. So that's basically the way we do it, is you have conditional zoning, you establish the number of rooftops that can happen, and then you allow the builder to have flexibility on the lot sizes based on the market that they're going after. And that's exactly what he's presenting tonight. That's
Yeah,
the
thanks, John.
history, the best I remember, at least.
Pretty good. Anything else, Scott? You good? Rhonda?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Some of these lots, it's like 5 lots for one in the previous neighborhood, I guess is Surrey Court. So if you look, some of them have like 4 homes, 4 lots that will be behind them. Will there be any type of privacy fencing?
Yeah, that
for-
actually came up at the meeting last week on Thursday night with the commissioners. And we haven't specifically had, it came up also, we had 2 neighborhood meetings, I failed to mention, and it came up at the neighborhood meetings. And so we haven't actually had specific conversations with those landowners, but we're very open to working with them to have some kind of privacy fencing. And I mentioned this the other night. I said, I'm not a huge fan of vinyl fencing. I like the aluminum fencing with landscaping. I don't know that that will be acceptable, so we're going to have some compromise on that, but we're very open to that. The other thing we talked about is there's some fairly mature trees along some of these lots that we would like to preserve, so to the extent we would interfere or somehow not be able to put fencing, or we probably work around it, it's sometimes difficult to span the roots. But those are the 2 caveats that we talked about, but we're very open to sit down with the homeowners and talk about that. And we don't, and work out a deal where there's some privacy, because we understand that. The fortunate thing in this, it's the difference that John was articulating, is a lot of those lots, the houses are well off the boundary. So we think there's some good tree coverage already on those lots, and to the extent we can provide or save some existing trees, then we would like to do that. But we're very open to putting fencing if that's what it takes to have a compromise there.
And you mentioned a crosswalk, pedestrian crosswalk at, I guess that's True Light and Lawyers Road?
That's right.
Will that be a flashing light?
Yeah, it will be, and I don't know exactly, but it's a signalized pedestrian crossing. So based on whatever the timing is of the traffic signal, then it would allow for pedestrians to walk through us with a signal indicating when they should walk and when they should not.
Okay. And is there a way to determine how long that light will be? Because sometimes the lights are not that long when you're coming from, for instance, Lawyers is very busy, and then True Light may not be as busy. So is there a way to determine the?
Yeah, well, and that's all done by NCDOT. They will do
Okay.
studies on that, and one of the things that came up is what happens, is there ever going to be where traffic backs up? And I can't really speak to that other than there's a possibility of that, but generally what happens is there's a petition or complaints to NCDOT, hey, this is backing up more than it used to, and they come in and modify the length of time, particularly at peak hours. So if there's a peak time where traffic is backing up, then NCDOT will come in and adjust the length of time of the lights so that it tries to minimize that as much as possible. But it's an NCDOT road, so they will dictate that.
Okay. And you said
Not with input from the town. The town obviously has input to that. So, in fact, the town was very much instrumental in wanting that traffic signal there.
And you said a left turn lane into your community
That's right.
be long enough to make sure that the flow of traffic continues on Lawyers?
Right. And generally the way they work, we've got, I think it's 450 feet or so between our entrance and Tree Light Church Road. And there's usually 100 to 150 feet that NCDOT wants in stacking or for cars to be able to stack to turn in. And then they taper it from there. What we think they will request here is just one lane, so no tapering, because of True Light Church Road, and that gives 400 and some feet for stacking to take place from both directions.
Okay. And lastly, do you know the elementary and middle school assignments for your community?
I have to look to my sons. I haven't looked at that in a while, and I apologize. I should know that, but I don't.
Okay. Is there a way I can,
Oh, yeah, we can find that out
Okay.
and send it to you tomorrow if you'd like for us to.
Okay.
Probably tonight, we can pull it up on the
Okay.
phone.
that's everything?
Can y'all, they'll research that and we'll, for
Okay.
the evening, we'll have that to you.
All right,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Roger?
Couple things. This piece of property, from the Helms family, is it just not, why are you looking to do the special zoning? Is it just not a piece of property that you feel like that you can develop under the standard rules that's under now, as far as with the larger lots?
Well, it goes back to when we first met with the town, and this was originally with council members and mayor and John Horde, to talk about this property. The desire was to develop it with some additional density, and to be honest, we would prefer to even have more density, but we understand where the town is in their guidelines, and because it's expensive property, and then with the condition of and so when we sat down, the town's feedback to us was no more than 2 to the acre. That's just not going to happen. Don't even bring anything to us less than 2 to the acre. And as a condition of this, we would want to see the greenway extended, and we would like to see a traffic signal. And that was part of the discussions we had. And so in order to be able to provide that kind of or to be able to install the greenway and the traffic signal and the pedestrian signal, the cost associated with that, borne by 50 lots, we just weren't able to do it unless we had the ability to do at least 50 lots. And it's expensive. It's the pedestrian crossing alone is.
So are your homes.
For how many?
So are your homes.
Yeah, the homes are going to be expensive too, no doubt.
And don't take us wrong, I just want to understand, but
Right.
helping
But
out
it- but
developers,
it's-
helping out developers is not what I'm here for. I've been part of that one time. Brighton Park didn't turn out so well, so, I'm all for taking care, doing much as we can for landowners and, that type of thing when people want to sell their property, but, there is a plan in place, and, and I understand it's it's expensive, but I also understand this is the best place in the world to live, especially on this side of town, or y'all wouldn't be here to begin with.
Yeah.
And we don't want to mess that up. And so, so I'm a little concerned about the density on this particular piece of property, because it is, it is going to impact the people off Surrey Court and Club Car, and, to a degree, and, and I think that's a legitimate concern. I was just curious that, you know, you're doing a lot of amenities, and I think the amenities are good, but you just don't feel like this is a developable piece of property with the standard term just under at this point? The higher density is the only way that y'all can see it work?
That's the only way we could see it. That's the only way we could make it work.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that we look at is it's in close proximity to uptown. It is not in the overlay, but it's next to it. There's multifamily beside the property. There's a point at which where we have to stay within the market too. And 600,000 to 700,000 is to make that work. To push that even higher with less lots is difficult. And it's all a subject, it's a condition
Right,
of where
I
the
get
market
that.
is and us being able to meet the market. But
I understand that, and you said.
it's not an easy site to develop either. It's got.
But it is in Mint Hill. That's what makes it
It
handy.
is. And then we love Mint Hill. Mint Hill's a great city.
So do I,
town.
brother. Behind us here, you said you were involved in this behind us?
Right.
Okay. Houses would be prettier than these houses, right?
Well, and you saw the renderings.
Well, I saw the renderings on this too.
Yeah. There was a situation on that, and John's very familiar with it, on those homes where they were required to be all brick.
Yeah.
And I think with some accents on the front, that would have been more attractive.
Oh, I agree 100%.
But
I
they
agree
had to
100%.
build them all brick, and so in doing that, I think, frankly, I think it detracted from the elevations. I think
Yeah.
people like all brick, but
Yeah. All brick is good, but that doesn't mean they look like a mud rail fence. But thank you. John, a question for you. What about I know this is kind of a transition area, for the town. Is the town good with this type of transition? I mean, this close? I mean, it's close, but so is, gotta
What
be
do
careful
you-
with close and hanger nades and horseshoes.
What do you mean transition?
Well, I mean, as far as from the downtown overlay, because, into larger lot areas and, is the town, where's your department on how this fits into the grand scheme? Here again, and I'm not trying to be ugly or anything else. I'm just never interested in going back down the road we went with Brighton Park.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Right.
doing things for the developer so they make their life easier. Okay, because I'm more interested in making life easier for the people that are going to live in these things and be paying taxes in Mint Hill for the next 30 to 50 years. That's the people I'm concerned about. And so I want it to be something that's going to be the best fit for our community. Although I do understand markets change, and great big yards. I'll be honest with you, I'm 66. I don't want to cut my yard anymore. So I do understand things change, but we got to look out for as many people as we can here.
Sure.
So of our people. And so, where are y'all at on this? I mean,
Well, I mean, I can tell you, well, we'll find out where the board's at soon. But like he said earlier, he has met with them previously, and they did seem to be receptive to this idea. And I can tell you what was not supported is all the, 10 different iterations that we've seen on this site over the last 15 years. I mean, this is how long this property's been up. And every one of those has been some form of higher density. And we've gone back and forth and many plans, some made it far, some didn't. But that I heard loud and clear, especially the last one, that was it. That they were no longer going to they did not want to see that again. So when,
Yeah, I remember that.
when Mr. Boone approached me about this site, as he alluded to earlier, he did want more density. And as he said, I told him, I said, to get in the door, you've got to get it down to 2. So you can get it to a residential zoning density neutral. And he came back and said, I think I can do it. And so as far as how we look at it, I mean, I think, look, you still have the connection to the downtown. So I think this sort of works because first off, you've got downtown. You've got traditions, which are small lots, duplexes with density, I think it's 4 or 5 units to the acre. And then you have this proposal, and then you start to blend into conventional subdivisions. So in a way, this is kind of sandwiched in between. So I think you can, logically, I think you can make sense out of this. And certainly the access of the Greenway to interconnect to Brighton Park, to give access for people to walk, to bike, get to the grocery store, get to the restaurants. So I think you can make sense out of it.
How about, how's your department see the traffic signal? We've been talking about a traffic signal there for years, and
Yes.
crosswalk and traffic signal. How are y'all looking at this with, as far as the added?
Yes, so so to go back, we've wanted a crossing there for quite a while to get a sidewalk there. And we discovered that that was going to be nearly impossible to do with NCDOT. They needed that to be a traffic signal there in order for them to consider. So fast forward years later, DOT did do a study in that area, and a traffic signal was warranted. However, like always, they don't have the funding to do it. And then in walks Mr. Boone, lucky him, he comes in and again, that's, we said, Mr. Boone, not only are you going to get the density you want, but you got to lower it down to 2 to bring it to a Mid-Hill, what Mid-Hill likes. And by the way, we want you to do a Greenway. Oh, and by the way, there's a traffic signal. And again, he said, all right, I think I can make it work. So the traffic signal is something that's, like I said, DOT has said is needed there. And it certainly helps us, something that we've been trying to do for a long time, which is to get a crosswalk there. So people can walk
I knew we
down
discussed
True
it.
Light, get across the street, get on the sidewalks, get on the greenways, and access the downtown.
Well, Mr. Boone, one more question for you, and then I'll be good. In development, what do you see as a timeline? I know as far as, 25, summer 25 start construction, but what would you see a timeline as selling out the community?
Well, it's 50 lots, so I would assume, and these are priced at a higher price point, so generally it's going to take 2 to 3 years to probably sell something out like this. But I would think, given, and you said it, and I agree with you, Mid-Hill's attractiveness, we're seeing it in this market right now, and hopefully it continues, and there's some chance that interest rates may dip down a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me if they were able to get through it in 18 months. It's just, that's the nature of the market now. And I just wanted to add one thing. I know that are some smaller lots along Daisy Drive, and we had to blend smaller with larger lots in order to make this deal work. But we did spend a lot of time thinking about what's going to be a premium lot and what's not going to be a premium lot. And even the smaller lots are able to offer some premium. Either they back up to open space, or they have a clear view to open space across from it. And some of these cul-de-sac lots are over half an acre. So it's not that we have a bunch of small lots here. Brighton Park, I think, is a traditional neighborhood type development that had a lot of density with alley load, and it was a completely different concept than what we're proposing right here. We are proposing, relative to what we see in other markets, large lots. Okay. And I know that doesn't sound that way, but it honestly, it's larger than we typically do in some other other municipalities.
Well, thank you, Mr. Boone.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Kenny?
A few questions. Appreciate the presentation. Number one, so the crosswalk will be at the intersection, not a rapid flashing beacon down away from.
At the intersection.
Yes, it'll be at the intersection. So if you're going to be carrying it looks like you're going to be widening Lawyers Road to 3 lanes to get your left turn lane in.
That's right.
It being that close to True Light, that's going to have to extend across True Light, correct?
Well, what we're thinking is it will be one continuous lane from our entrance to True Light. Does that answer your question? In other words, we're not going to have a taper. Generally, what we would see
Yes,
is
yeah.
there'd be a turn lane, and then it would taper and then merge in with the pavement 100, 250 feet down, depending
Right.
on what NCDOT requires. In this case, we think NCDOT will want to see it as one continuous lane.
Yes,
So
which would
that-
make you have to carry that across the intersection of True Light and Lawyers further down
Yeah, I'm
Lawyers.
not sure if they would stop it at True Light or where they would tie into it. Honestly, they haven't given us that feedback
Okay,
yet.
'cause at some
I would
point-
think it would tie in wherever the left turn lane is going into True Light. Does that make sense?
So we're going to have a left turn lane into True Light and a
There's an
left turn
existing-
lane into this?
There's an existing left turn lane in the True Light.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think those specifics, I think, is going to come to us later. I know DOT has weighed in on this. I know they support the light, but as far as getting into the nitty-gritty of exactly how this is going to lay out, I have not seen that yet.
Okay.
I have not, so I can't comment on that.
Okay, the other questions I got is, and I hear what you're saying as far as the layout of the development, but as Roger indicated, it seems like it's an awful lot backed up to Surrey Court. I was thinking, could we increase the buffer on the back of lots 28 through 17?
The challenge with that is topo and trying to make that work and being able to get the lots to be as deep as we need to in order to get, because these are going to be larger homes.
Yeah.
And so when we start putting a buffer on it, it makes it difficult to be able to get enough depth to be able to build the homes that we think are needed in order to meet the price point and be able to make the numbers work on this. So if we start restricting the depth of those lots, it's going to be, we'll have to reduce the depth of the homes, and it just makes it really difficult to make it work. We think the better approach would be to put some kind of privacy fencing there.
Okay. Well, that kind of leads into my next question. So do we do away with the minimum lot size and the minimum lot width? Or do we still try to retain some of that?
Well, actually, it's up to you. I mean, well, the commissioners, this is conditional zoning, so you're, in essence, creating your own sort of ordinance that applies to just this site. So, obviously, we're not retaining the minimum lot size, because that's 20,000 square foot. We can't maintain the width, because that's 125-foot width, so that obviously wouldn't work here. So this is something where, again, this is where we go back to the option of just establishing a density that the town is comfortable with, 2 being the max, and then agreeing or letting the builder say, this is the type of lot sizes that we want. But obviously, we can participate. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys could say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with that lot size. We think these lots need to be larger, or 2 is too much.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 1.5. I mean, so it's completely up to you and the commission.
Okay.
The one, I'm just looking at the site plan now, the one cul-de-sac lot that I think someone mentioned that has 4 lots backing up to it, some of those are deeper. So there's a possibility we could do a 10-foot buffer or something there with some landscaping on those. But as you get down, and part of this is dictated by the creek and where the floodplain is, those lots that are, and I can't see the lot numbers here, but where Surrey Court is, down towards where our cul-de-sac is, those are the ones that really have some depth restrictions that would make it difficult to have any kind of buffer there. But we can deal with that through fencing, as I said.
Well, like I said,
So the one that's those are a little deeper lots, so we may have some room there to add a buffer.
yeah, I mean, to Roger's point, if I'm living on Surrey Court, I'm going to say, look, I bought this house based on the zoning, and I knew there was and now you just violated that because you've crammed 3 houses right in my back, out my back door. So that's why I was asking them. So how do the rear, front, side, and the setbacks compare to the standard zoning, what it's currently zoned at?
If you apply the buy right option, it's 20,000 square foot lots, 125-foot width, 50 front setback, 15 side, 40 rear. That's your conventional.
Okay,
lot
so we're
size.
less than half of that with this.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what I was talking about, just the feel. I mean, it's just, I don't like mowing my yard either, but just the feel of everything being crammed in there, that's.
But on all your cul-de-sacs, those are going to be setbacks, so that's going to feel completely different. And where the pocket park is, as you go down, we've meandered that road in order to create some appeal from how you would drive through the neighborhood. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about that and how we've laid it out. And then we've got some cul-de-sac lots on the back as well. And then those, as I said, that back up to common open space are going to be, from a lot standpoint, would be
Right.
premiums because of that.
Okay.
But we've tried to make it as efficient as we possibly could in order to get at least 2 to the acre so we can make the numbers work on it.
Okay. And then I guess sewer is on Irvins Creek?
Yeah, it's on the back of the site behind where that BMP is.
Okay.
We're going to tie in towards the back of the site.
And then you're going to maintain the existing pond and then create a new stormwater control measure?
That's right.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Eric?
Yeah, so I like this proposal a lot more than I think the townhouses we dealt with before here. Definitely a step in the right direction, with the light up there at True Light Church, and connecting Greenway. So a couple questions. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with this particular parcel, the topography kind of goes downhill as Daisy.
Yeah, it all drains to the rear of the site.
Is it possible to rearrange Daisy, was that Daisy Drive, insofar as that it would kind of split those lots a little bit more equally, or is that more of like a visual?
It's driven mostly by where the flood lines are and trying to, because where we have a lot of that open space where the pond is and those lots that are fronting on that, we've pulled the road in as much as we could, but we wouldn't be able to get enough depth on those lots to make those work. Is that what you're asking?
I mean, yeah, I guess kind of the point of my question is there towards the end of the cul-de-sac, the way it kind of curves up towards Surrey Court, I didn't know if that curve was more of due to topography or like just a visual
It's
consideration.
a combination of both, because we've got a cut area there, and then we have some topography on the other side. So we've spent a lot of time trying to make it as favorable as possible to get that to work.
And then what's your lot size range right now from the smallest lot
I think
proposed to the
the
biggest?
smallest lot is 7,200 to 7,300 up to 22,000 square feet over a half acre.
My next question is out on Lawyers Road. We've talked about the turn lane and improvements out there. I didn't see any proposal as far as the length along Lawyers Road. Do you have some proposals for landscaping, or I know it looks like a
There's
couple.
a sidewalk, there'll be some street trees and some landscaping at the entrance with a monumentation. We didn't include that as part of the rezoning, but that would be our plan there. And it does show the sidewalk and street trees on it. We have a landscape plan that shows that as part of the rezoning plan.
And long-term maintenance of the green space, is that more to town or?
Yeah, we have started conversations with him about that, so I don't know exactly how it's gonna go. It could be an initial dedication to town with the idea of hopefully eventually turning this over to Mecklenburg County. This does connect into a Mecklenburg County master plan greenway, which actually takes us all the way through Apple Creek and actually all the way out to Ottawa Road to connect into across where Matthews is. And I can't remember the name of that greenway trail. So this is a part of Mecklenburg County system. So the idea would be, and that's why he had mentioned that they're going to build it to their standard, with the idea being we could eventually turn that over to them. And I think we're probably looking to do that sooner than later. So we'll but I don't, like I said, I just don't know if it's going to be initially town, then county, or straight to the county. I don't know that yet.
Got it. That's all I got.
Just in reference to what Ms. Walker had asked about the school districts.
Yeah.
According to Polaris, that 105 Two-Foot address, which is the bulk of that, is assigned to Lebanon, Northeast, and Independence.
Lebanon Northeast, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Back to Kenny's point, I mean, so your topography here, keeps you from shifting that Daisy Lane down 10 feet, whatever, to create a bit of a buffer up here on your upper boundary. Your north, I guess that'd be your east boundary, actually.
And it's all driven by the creek, wetlands, and everything that's down below, that runs where those, below where those lots are.
Yeah.
But they've pushed them down as far, otherwise it starts encroaching to the lot.
The buffer zone, you mean?
It's,
I'm talking
you know,
about
it's a
just I'm just
PCO.
talking about the road from, say, from 37 over to 38 or so, moving that down into this buffer zone to create more buffer up in this area around this, I don't know what it is, that right angle right there. It's more than a right angle, but that right angle on the top of it.
Yeah, I know we pushed the engineers to make it as tight as they could down there. I don't.
Yeah.
If we could move it 5 feet, we'd be glad, but I don't think it's not gonna be a significant amount of movement that we could, because of the buffers that are required, and then the floodplain runs through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably on, the flood line is probably shown on there. So that red line there, see that red line?
You're talking to a guy who's red-green colorblind. Go ahead.
Okay. That is the flood line. So it's right at the back of those lots. So they've pushed it as far as they can in order to make those lots.
The plan shows that as a post-construction buffer,
Right.
not a flood plain.
Not a flood line, yeah.
Well, it's a post-construction, but it's an undisturbed buffer, meaning we can't grade on there.
Oh, really? At the hash mark where you got there, you can't grade
Yeah,
down
it's-
into there?
It's that red, I know you, but it's the red line that runs back behind those lots, if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
I tell you what, I can show it.
It's right there.
Yeah. Can see it. So I'm not worried about those lots as much.
Let me see if I can.
It's right up there, moving this part of Daisy Lane down to create more buffer up in this angle up here.
It's this line right here.
Which one?
Right here.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about is taking
That's
this,
a wall right there.
yeah, I mean, taking this down and create a kind of more of a natural buffer area right here, some type of planting or something. I don't like I don't like fences either. I would, yeah. Push
So
it
you're
down so
saying
you
drop
create a
down.
buffer, you create some kind of a.
As long as we can meet whatever the slope requirements are and all that, and for me to tell you that, our engineer would have to study that. But if you're saying, can you swing this in a little bit right
Yeah,
here?
what you create, then you move this lot down and create a, I don't know what you call it, but you create some kind of a planting area here with a natural buffer instead of fence. I don't like
Absolutely.
fences myself.
If we can do that and meet the slope requirements and whatever the turn angles are on that, and absolutely we would.
See, it kind of helps Rhonda's
Yeah.
point about all these,
'Cause there is
all
some-
these lots right here.
There's a
it
little
kinda
bit of
spreads
room,
it out.
there's
Yeah.
a little bit of room here. It's not much because we
Mhm.
can't grade inside that area, but there's a little bit of room here. And we were trying to preserve around the pond as well, but
I understand.
they may be able to start tapering right here and then come in and then move it back like that. So we'd be absolutely open to that.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong,
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think Kenny I was more worried about where Rhonda was talking about this area up
And see,
here.
these are deeper, so we can probably do some kind of buffer. I'm not sure what the grading is that may have
Mhm.
dictated the deeper lots here, but.
Some type of a berm with a
Looks like,
buffer
yeah,
or with
even if-
planting on top of it
even
or
if
something.
it's, even if we got, but absolutely, it looks like we have some room there, and we understand that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a reasonable request.
okay.
And we did try to put some cul-de-sacs here to minimize it here. And
Yeah.
I will say, as you can see, this house is sitting.
Yeah, setback's
way-
pretty full.
Way back.
Yeah, I went in there
So
the
we
other day
didn't
to
worry
look at
about
it.
it as much in this area, but,
Right.
and same here, there's there's some nice trees in here.
Yeah, I saw those big mature trees. So, yeah, y'all aren't gonna do like you did back here and just clear cut it.
No. We're not, and that's those lots were 35 feet wide.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, probably averaging over 6.
Yeah. Let's see.
But that was under the downtown overlay.
Yeah, they fit.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see, Jency,
You see
got
what he's
that,
saying?
got that. All right,
Drop the road here. And try to create a buffer here. Drop this road down.
See, these lights can extend into PC.
Well, he's saying he can't. go past
he's
that
down
red
against the
line.
flood.
His property. Yeah, you can't put a house.
Oh, the property can, but the house can't go. So it backed the house up. Well, say that to him again.
Yeah,
Because it's two different things.
that would create more buffer here.
Yeah.
Your property line can go all the way across the creek. Tell the creek.
Well, mention that to him.
Okay. Let me write something down here.
Space from the house positions.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's another.
That's the
What
question.
you talking about?
Yeah, ask the
'Cause-
question.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was
So,
getting.
it's open right now. Go ahead.
That's what I was getting at earlier. I hear what you're saying. Lots 31 through 37, the rear property line can extend all the way to the property line of Helms property. There's nothing that can't, you can sell the creek. They currently Helms owns the creek. So you can sell the creek.
Because I can't see those, my eyes on that, but which lots are they again?
Right here. 32,
Laser pointer.
37, 36, 35, 33.
30.
All this backside right here.
Yeah, I see.
See the house positions?
I do.
Now, if that was to be able to be moved back, because the property line can extend just where your house goes,
Well,
can
but
continue to go.
There's some grading that has to be done too, so those lots have to be graded, so what he's doing is he's pushed it to the point where we can't disturb beyond there. So,
Do you have the topo, John? The topo
I don't
in a drawing?
think one of his site plans.
Here again, for the same reason,
Yeah,
of
no, I
trying
didn't
to
have it.
make some relief on those lots on the other side, 27 through 19 or so. You know, that would be able to create a buffer back there if it was,
drops off pretty good.
Right there.
All right, let's do it this way. So part of our, if, assuming we do a favorable recommendation on this, I mean, there's a couple caveats I have here, and you guys help me with this, they will work out screening with the planning department and homeowners. And part of that working out the screening is the possibility of moving Daisy Lane, I guess that's to the south, isn't it, Chris? Kind of
Yeah, south, I
south
guess.
as much as you can to create a buffer all along, what's the name of that development over there?
Court.
Where Surrey Court is and where Woodrail Lane is, to create kind of a berm or a buffer up there with screening of some sort.
be better than a fence.
Yeah, I don't like fences either. They get beat up over the years. Nobody takes care of them.
The problem with doing a berm is
You gotta have.
you gotta have probably
I'm
30
not talking
feet.
about, I'm not talking about anything high, just something that basically where you can put some plantings on the top of it, you gotta have a, 3-to-1 slope or something?
Yeah, exactly. That's,
Yeah.
so you go 3-to-1 to get it 6 feet to make it a decent sized berm, you're probably
Yeah.
30 feet before you
Yeah.
can make that work
Yeah.
at a 3-to-1 slope.
Well, just plantings
that's-
or something.
Plantings can.
Yeah, some like
knock down
20-foot high trees or something?
And we'd be open to putting aluminum fencing there. What is that?
I said 20-foot high trees all along there. I thought I'd get that in while he was talking. But do what now? You were saying?
Well, I was saying, you could do some, what I like are the aluminum fences with some screening, some attractive landscaping,
Yeah,
some hollies or whatever that will get some size to them.
Yeah. I couldn't
But,
really see what most of those houses have on the backside. Do they have fencing now? Do you know?
Well, it's wooded, and see, the other thing that I don't think people focus on, that there's a power line easement that runs all along those lots. It's about 30 feet wide. And so all of that, if you pull up the aerial, so all of that backside there, of those lots, there's a power line. And so
Your lots are the lots that are already there.
lots that are there.
Oh, okay.
See that?
Oh,
see that
yeah.
power line
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
So that power line easement affects, you know, what's there. They clear it every now and then, but it's, and then you
Supposed
see
to
a lot of trees that
You
are along
supposed to
there.
build on those easements?
No. No, there's a lot of, I don't know how closely they check that, but
Yeah.
as you see, there's a lot of tree growth there
Yeah,
that we would like to preserve some of
yeah.
those trees.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. To the extent we can. Now, if we can't, we can't due to grading, but.
Yeah, like I
if
say,
we
the more
can,
you
that's-
push that,
that's
the
why
more
we-
you
we
push
really
Daisy
need to-
Lane down, the more you have a chance of saving those trees too.
Yeah,
If possible.
absolutely.
All right, so, I mean, you know, we're probably not gonna make that decision here at this table, but to work out something with the planning board and the neighborhood, you know, the homeowners there.
We can go back to our engineer and say, this was the feedback.
Right,
Push it down as far as you can, and then come back to you and say, and we can bring the engineer in if necessary.
yeah,
And just say, hey, these are the constraints that we ran into
right.
in trying to make this work. But if, you know,
I would say that'd be
frankly,
one
I'd
of
rather
our
I'd rather
caveats.
they be deeper lots there. I
Huh?
think they're more attractive if they're deeper lots.
Mm-hmm.
And in our conversations with the engineer, we want to maximize depth on lots because it
Right.
gives more backyard, it makes it a lot more attractive. So we're on the same page as far as wanting to make that happen. It's just,
Is it possible?
yeah, is it possible?
Plausible.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. On your cul-de-sacs and stuff, I mean, this has all been, I guess we've had our fire department look at this as far as turnarounds and whatever the case may be, as far as diameters and,
Yeah, so the initial review that they're required to go through before they file for rezoning, it does go through the fire marshal.
okay. Okay.
It's wide enough.
All right. Okay, that's the only thing I had. Anybody else got any more questions, anything else?
I was just wanting to make sure with the trees, I really like the idea of having the privacy for those homeowners because
Right.
they've had it for years and then all of a sudden, everything's gone and the deer and, you know, wildlife that are there. So, and also the turn lane is, I hope that that can stay, and of course, the pedestrian walk.
Yeah, the turn lane will be,
Okay.
Part of the
that's going to be
caveat, yeah.
required as part
Okay.
of
Yeah.
the NCDOT work. We've already had conversations with them, and we know that that's something that they're going to want to see. And John, I think, has had some conversations in relation to the Tree Light Church warrant study that was done. But our goal is, if we can save trees, and where we have some cut, because all these sites, we have to cut some areas and fill in other areas, and so there's challenges in saving trees where you have that. But to the extent we can save trees, and there are a lot of areas where we hopefully can do that on the back of these lots, because we've had the engineer look at that, and we said, to the extent we can preserve trees there, we want to do that. We absolutely want to do that.
You know, we ask every developer the same thing, you know, save as many trees. We
Yeah,
don't have a
they
tree
never do it,
ordinance.
right?
We don't have a tree ordinance. Save as many as you can. And sometimes I think it's the forgiveness versus
Yeah,
permission thing.
right.
You know, they're just going to wipe it out. So, yeah.
Well, these are going to be expensive lots and expensive homes, and so to the extent we can provide a rear yard that is attractive, then we need to do that.
Yeah.
And so now it gets challenging when you have these trees with huge strip lines and.
Yeah, I know when you run over them, they might stay for 2 or 3
I wouldn't
years,
be
and then
honest
somebody's
with-
going to be cutting them down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, somebody want to make a stab at a recommendation one way or another? And we have to put this in here too, right, John?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, with caveat, if we make it
Yeah.
favorable.
Work out screen.
Yeah, the thing I'm just, still, like I said, lot 24, that's going to be what, 115 feet deep lot?
We'll come back up, sorry.
That's all right. I'm just kind of scaling it off from here, and I'm just thinking,
It's just the shortest one in there.
yeah, 115 feet deep, so these people on Surrey Court's going to be looking out their back door at a street 115 feet away.
That's a cut area. But if we can pull that down a little bit, absolutely.
Yeah. And the only thing I worry about leaving the trees is a lot of time those big forests, it's open underneath, so you leave
Yeah.
the edge of it, and then you've got just a tree and a tree with no canopy that screens it, provides any screening.
And there's where that power line is somewhat cleared, although I don't know if they cleared it all.
Where that power line easement runs through there.
So I guess did the community on Surrey, did those people participate in the community meeting?
Yes. We had a meeting we had two. We had one at the Traditions, and then we had one at Masonic Lodge that we did mailings to. Whatever we were required to mail to, we mailed to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good compromise. I'm just worried about those residents, and if they don't care, if they're okay with the development being that close.
The main concern, I know that and I think he's here now. I know you expressed concern. Is yours a house that has 4 lots backing up to it?
Yes.
Okay, so the main concern we heard was from you, and I appreciate that. And then there were some other residents, I don't even know if they were members of the Apple Creek neighborhood, but there were a couple of people there, and Dale and Tony, the commissioners were there for the meeting. But it was a little bit of pushback on the lot sizes that we heard from one individual, but we didn't hear a lot from, in fact, I don't know that I heard from anyone along that stretch that you just pointed out. It was primarily related to the cul-de-sac lot that had 4 lots backing up to it. And that seemed to be the main, that I recall.
I think the good point here is the fact that most of those lots are up closer to Surrey Court. You know, if you could provide screening in the back there somehow or the other, because they have looks like they have large backyards.
Yeah, they do. They have, and when you walk back through there, you can't, in the wintertime maybe, but now you can't even see some of those homes back through there. There's a lot of distance and trees between those homes, and maybe that's why they weren't as concerned along that section.
Yeah. All right. One way or another.
Now, you did say 28 to 3,800 square feet. Are they
As far
average
as the homes,
sizes?
yeah, the building pads are roughly 45 to 50 feet wide and then about 70 feet deep. So those are the home sizes we're
That
anticipating.
would fit.
And they're going to push that to the extent the market will allow it.
Right.
The bigger lots, it'll be
Well-
obviously the bigger homes.
Mr. Chairman, I know as this piece of property has been tried to be developed multiple times, and without a satisfactory resolution yet. And I know that this does not meet the standards for at this point, but as the market changes and as all things change, I don't know that we're going to be the people that make the big paychecks like the commissioners. They'll make the final, but I do believe there possibly enough here going on that warrants greater minds to give this consideration. So, in regards to ZC 24-3, I would like to make a motion to move a favorable motion forward. in the fact that ZZ 24-3 is found to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information presented and reviewed with the caveats of, number one, work out a screening program with or screening plan with the planning department, Mint Hill Planning Department, and the homeowner group. Number two, to look into the moving of Daisy Drive to allow a buffer zone for lots 12 through 28, that back up to Surrey, and for lots 37 through 30 that would also assist in that, and then moving Daisy down into the pond area, the scenario, to see if that scenario is a possible scenario to provide a buffer. With those two caveats, I would be willing to put
Make
the
a
motion
favor.
forward.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Kenny seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boone.
Thank you.
We'll get with our engineer and put something together and then sit down with John and come
Uh-huh.
back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good presentation. Thank you. Good discussion. All right. Any other business? Anybody? Nothing? No other business? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. By Roger. Scott, got it? All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't stay. All right. Good discussion.
Never opposed to.
Figured Scott would make the motion to
Ah,
adjourn.
yeah, the other night,